Okay. Oh, I hope this is gonna. Hello. So we're trying a new night, Wednesday in the U.S. instead of Monday. That's different. I don't know. Yeah, that was mostly for technical reasons. It wasn't wobbling. Yeah, so that was mostly for technical reasons, and I don't know if this is going to be a regular day. So we'll try a couple of different times and kind of see what makes sense. Things are a little bit done, so hopefully this will work okay. It's a little bit slow, but the feed says it should be okay. Try this. Oh, so yeah, so second week after the new year, so all of that is died down, and it's cold, 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 I think, everywhere. People are dealing with crazy cold. But yeah, it occurred to me that listening back, and I guess this is probably something with YouTube compression, uh, when the video is compressed in the, wow, I'm moving a lot. The camera's okay there. When the camera, or the video is compressed, the audio, I guess to save space or whatever, when there's not some decent amount of sound, when there's not there's no talking or anything, it completely cuts out. So that means when I start talking in, it kind of cuts back in. So there's a strange thing happening with the audio. So I'm noticing some of the archived streams are not very pleasant to listen to because it's silence, room noise, or like, computer fan, and then my talking kind of distorted, and then silence. So kind of like it's on a or radio or something. So that's a little bizarre. I may have to try to figure out a workaround with that, maybe some background music or something to keep something always on the stream, so it doesn't cut out like that. Because sometimes when I'm drawing, I just stop talking, and then it just cuts out to complete silence. Hopefully some of the road noise and things keep the background a little bit more active. That'll help keep things working that way, but we'll see. We'll try a couple of different things. So what I was going to try, kind of the technical problem I had for Monday night, was I was going to pre-record one of the drawing one of the cartoons and then just talk over it. So instead of having kind of a broken, half talking, half drawing, kind of losing my train of thought or moving very slowly, working, we'd try to kind of do those two things separately and then put them together for the live stream. But that didn't seem like it was going to work out, and technically I didn't think it would be decent quality, because I would basically be playing a video in the background capturing that. So yeah, probably not the best idea. But so we're just going to try the old, capturing the desktop, talking to the camera, and see how that works. The microphone hopefully is placed a little bit better. You're not going to get the really bad keyboard sounds like you were getting before, and hopefully the computer fan hum is a little bit better. I'm not sure. The microphone is pointed away from the fan, so that was the kind of room tone that sounded kind of strange on the archives. So hopefully that's better now too. But yeah, so back again. Yeah, so my schedule may be changing over the next few months, so we will try to keep finding a good day to make this work. And I'm not sure, something over the weekend. I'm not sure if anybody has any suggestions or any feedback or anything that would be convenient. I would definitely be willing to try streaming at different times. And it's not really important, because everything is being archived, that the live viewership is huge, but I think that can be more interactive and more fun. So I think it's worth trying to find a good day and time possible. So still have the glare. I was hoping my glasses would help with the glare on the tablet, but that's not going to happen. That's not going to solve anything. So yeah, still dealing with a little bit of glare, but the background a lot more lively and fun than it was before. The background, there was no background, it was the back of my head. So I'm getting a few odd pauses here. Oh, sorry, the microphone is just in the way of my. So okay, so yeah, I didn't have any big topic in mind. The one idea, and I'm not crazy in the mood for it right now, and I guess maybe like a week ago it was a little bit more motivating, but uh yeah, something came up, so we were I do another podcast where we talk about pop culture and tabletop gaming and things, and we had talked about the Star Trek Discovery series, and then that's coming back. The second half of that season is coming back, and so people are, the first episode I guess has already aired, and so people are complaining about that all over again. And on our review that's on YouTube, we got a very angry, hurt comment about how much somebody hated the that new series, and it reminded very much my reaction, my feelings about the new Star Wars. So I think that's something that's happening pretty much all the way around, and maybe it's just we never heard it before because nobody had a channel or a voice to express so easily into so many people their displeasure, and also we haven't had this like third generation of pop culture and people reacting to it. But I thought that was very interesting because people's reactions are very much you've taken something that I cared about or was kind of part of my whole life. It was always this like kind of background thing. I think in the podcast for Last Jedi I referred to Star Wars as comfort food, and I think it's a pretty apt comparison because it's something you go back to. You don't have big expectations for it, and it's just something you go back to, and when it's there, when it's the same, that's nice, and that's great. And I think American television has always kind of operated in that way. I mean, compared to other countries' television, America will have 20 years of the same show, and that's because those regular weekly episodes are comfort food, and people don't really care. Like this, the arc within the episode happens, and there's some change or something happens, but it kind of goes back to zero by the end, and so you can tune in every week, and you're always starting in the same place, and it's always those same familiar characters. And I think in some ways, some of those 70s and 80s properties functioned in that same way. There was a comfort to them, the familiarity to them, and you knew what you were going to get. And now, we're at an age, and I think somebody said that after the kind of connected narrative television shows that you have now, where you don't start from zero and have a story arc in the episode and go back to zero, so people don't end up in the same place. It's a continuing arc, so you can't jump in episode 7 and have any idea what's going on. You need to watch the whole thing, and so now we have binge watching, online streaming things, so people can consume these things like multi-hour movies, follow the story, and so that's the kind of the newer style of television, but it doesn't have that comfort to it any longer because the story can go completely off the rails. I think there's a lot of people getting frustrated with directions that some of those shows have taken, and also how unsatisfying it's very difficult to end one of those narrative shows. I think maybe Breaking Bad did it one of the best ways, but a lot of like Sopranos and a lot of these longer series have had kind of frustrating endings where people are like, okay, that's just it, and I'm not sure it gave them the same kind of satisfying ending at the end of a movie. So you stick with it all this time and you follow all this change characters in the storyline, and then it just ends up and that's it. So yeah, so That's the new way. And so I think Star Trek Discovery is a victim of that, is they're trying to not make episodic television. They're making, narrative, I don't, there's got to be a term for that, but a continuing narrative throughout a season of television. And if you would just watch like one episode from each season, the changes that would happen to these characters and things that would be going on would be unrecognizable. And I think it would very difficult. So unless you've watched the whole arc, you have no idea why people are the way they are, what has happened to characters, what has happened to the situation. And yeah, so I think that explains a lot of what's wrong with Star Trek Discovery for people that are used to Star Trek, because I think Star Trek has a lot of, the older series had a lot of episodic, and I think the original series was only episodic. You only went back to every time, and maybe they're 2-part episodes or something, so there would be some connection. You couldn't watch the second one first and have much of an idea what was going on. But yeah, I think that's very strange and unsatisfying. And I don't understand. I guess it's an economic thing where these studios own these properties and there's value to those names and those characters, so they want to use them somehow, and so they're trying to use them in this updated context. But they really shouldn't. There shouldn't be a need to keep taking properties that people have decades of connection with and experimenting with. And I guess you could, if you're preparing people for it, if they're not considered, the continuity. And that's an odd choice that Star Trek Discovery made, is they made it a prequel. They made this all occur like 100 years before anything that you've known from television has happened. So that was a little bit odd choice, because it's so, like, the production design and everything is so lush and gorgeous and so not what, you can't put these things in order, and it doesn't evolve into that in any way. So a little bit odd. I don't, so I was hearing a lot of anger about Star Trek Discovery, and it reminded me of my, anger and frustration in Star Wars. And I think with specifically the Last Jedi, and I think that is because even the trailers, nothing hinted at what they were going to do. This was just a change of direction that we didn't even get clues of from the trailers. Like, there wasn't any of this nonsense and this weird characterization. It was just the swelling John Williams score and the Destiny, this and No More Jedi and whatever, the big epic scale. And then when you got to the movie, there was so little of that and so much just around and subplots and things that were just unnecessary and ridiculous, very, very silly and light. And I think there's, definitely, just like Rogue One was a kind of a departure from the epic scale. It was a smaller story told, more of a war story. I think it's possible to do that, but you have to prepare people for that, and to do that in the main sequel trilogy, just shift gears like that and do that is really odd and really jarring. I think it's easy to see the people that were frustrated by that were the people that wanted to go back to that world, back to that fiction universe, and just enjoy the type of story they've always enjoyed, with some little variation or whatever they're doing with characters. But this wasn't that at all. It was very odd. It was just very odd, and so you can tell why the reaction is so split, because people that don't have that expectation, that are just like, okay, let's see what this is going to be. I'm not walking in with any demands. I don't have any. I don't care much about these characters, and just entertain me. And so that it was satisfying for many people that had that kind of expectation. I just want to see an interesting story with big special effects, and yeah, it's fine if that's what you wanted. But if you're going there to see the continuation of the story and to kind of be back in that mode, that very simple good versus evil epic space opera thing, then that it wasn't that at all, and it was just kind of like, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore, so what are you going to do about it? How it is now, which is odd. So it made me think about a lot of the properties that have had 30 years or so in Japan that keep getting reintroduced onto television. And interesting thing, or even games that kind of have a storyline and come out every 3 to 5 years and have a different take. So they have the same name, but they have a different take. It's new characters, and there's just a few kind of markers that tell you that this is that world or this is that thing, but it's a new story, it's a new setting. So one of those series is the Gundam series. It's been going on since the late 70s. They keep coming out with new series, and the only thing that is the same through the series is that usually the pilots of the mechs are children, and there is always something called a Gundam. And it doesn't have to be connected in any specific way, and there's even different timelines. But that still works. You can enjoy, if you enjoy that type of story, you can enjoy all of the different series, even though it's different characters and different takes on those characters and different visual design, everything. Because there's some basic things that are always the same. And Star Wars isn't doing that. So it's just kind of veering off in a different direction. And I don't know how or even why they expect people to follow it, because, yeah, I don't think the people that are in charge of it have any idea, kind of what people need from that franchise. And to have people that are kind of loyally coming back, just, see the same old thing again and again, that's like a gold mine. It seems like an easy way to make money, not huge money, not huge, blockbuster, the original trilogy kind of money, but you can have milk that loyal fan base. And now they're not doing that, I think, but maybe in some sense they think they've created a new fan base, following the prequels, and those people are easily satisfied. It just, they don't have much invested in it because it hasn't been a part of their life in that same way. And so the biggest thought that made me very sad about this whole thing, about people being so frustrated with the latest versions of their stories, but whether it's Star Trek or Star Wars, is the thing that I remember about Star Wars the most was out in the late 70s, is how unifying it was. It was this common language, this common thing that any kids could talk about, and nobody said, oh, I don't like that kind of stuff, because it was so new and interesting. Everybody was curious about it, even if they weren't obsessed with it, like a lot of kids were at that time. Because I can remember my parents in the 70s had their like Friday night date night, and so they always got us a sitter, and they went out to a dinner and a movie on Friday night. And one of those nights in the summer, they saw Star Wars, and they came home and they said, wow, you guys have to see this movie. And I think like the next day, Saturday, they took us to that movie. So I had, of course, very young parents, obviously, and they were very excited by seeing that in the film and wanted to share that with us immediately. And that was like, when that whole phenomena just kind of took off, and that movie stayed in the theater forever, and you saw it multiple times, because it was just, a very simple, fun, interesting experience that, I was like 6 years old at the time, so I could very easily process that, very easily enjoyed it, enjoyed the suspense of it, enjoyed the imagination and fantasy of it. And it was a very uniting thing. It brought people together, and it was something that if you met a strange kid in any situation, you could always talk about Star Wars. That was something that everybody knew. So not everybody had G.I. Joe, not everybody had the Micronauts or whatever, and even Star Trek, I don't think, and especially the younger, especially my generation. I mean, I watch the reruns on television, but I think you have to be kind of, high school, university, and have experienced Star Trek, when it was first out, to really, have a deep connection to that in that same kind of way. But it was so universally uniting You know, people and anybody, it was a common thing that everybody had. And I think that's reflected by the, you know, disco version of the Star Wars theme song. So there was like a disco release and a, you know, Christmas special, and so they knew that it was you know, it crossed many audience and demographics. It crossed many age and you know, gender and race and everything. I mean, you could talk to anybody about Star Wars, and so I always have that feeling about those movies, and that was kind of reinforced when I was in university, and we went to a screening. They did a marathon screening of the original trilogy, you know, 3 films all in a row in a big auditorium full of university kids that had all been kids in the 70s that grew up with that. And it was wonderful. It was this really uniting, kind of joyful experiences, people reliving that kind of, you know, childhood excitement, and seeing it in a big, weird marathon like that was a really fun way to experience that, especially with a group of people that had all gone through that in their childhood. So it always associated this, the element of being united, it being a connecting thing, something that you could, you always kind of had in common. Of course, everybody likes that thing. You know, it's likable. It's not amazing, and people aren't, you know, obsessed with it. So yeah, that's why I think that, like, the fandom of Star Trek and Star Wars started out very differently, because I think there was a lot more obsession with Star Trek initially, and everyone had kind of a light occasion of enjoyment of Star Wars. There weren't obsessed fans, and I think with the rise of the internet and, you know, all kinds of weird fandoms and Comic-Con things and stuff, that the fandom did get weird and obsessed and that kind of strange way, because you never had to ask. I don't think I ever asked somebody, do you like Star Wars, when I was a little kid, because everybody liked it. It was likable. It was, you know, it's like saying, do you know, like Indiana Jones or, you know, E.T. or something. Very likable, enjoyable stories. They were divisive in any way. They didn't make people, you know, alienated, that story. But yeah, but now it's really strange to see Star Wars being this divisive thing, people using it politically, and kind of, you know, their understanding or their appreciation or their liking version of the film as showing what's wrong with other people. And it's just really sad. It's really sad to see, and it's so sad to see the, you know, kind of reactions online being so split, and this is garbage, this is the best, and if you don't think it's stupid, and if you don't garbage, then stupid. You know, just the separation is really sad. It's sad to see that something that used to serve as just this common pop culture that everybody understood. I mean, that's why stupid Star Wars jokes have existed, and why Kevin Smith has a career and everything, because making Star Wars jokes is just something that everybody can enjoy because it's a common thing. You know, it's really part of the pop culture, of the, you know, shared popular culture. And yeah, it's really sad. It's really sad to see that completely fall apart. They kind of lose the idea that this should just be something that unites people. These big, silly, epic stories that don't have proper science in them. They have mediocre logic and just a little bit of satisfying narrative arc, and have, you know, twists, like soap opera type twists, you know, like the bad guy is the good guy's father. You know, that's a soap opera level, space soap opera level of story. So it's not like we had big demands. It's not like, I don't know. I think yeah, we're just in an age where this is why we can't have nice things, you know, because people are obsessive and they use things for their own little, their personal agendas. And yeah, it's just stupid. It shouldn't have ever gotten to that point. It shouldn't have ever been that way. So I'm trying to talk about something, or, you know, talk more in a way where I can draw and talk at the same time and not have to address the camera. So let's see. Yeah, so I just think that's a big thing. That's a big thing that is now gone forever. And I think, every generation has seen that, like, drive-in car restaurants where you can drive your car and get a cheeseburger and a milkshake. I mean, that's gone forever, and that created a social environment and thing that people shared, and that's just gone. So, we all have to kind of deal with that as society changes. It's either, too dangerous or too uncomfortable, or, not technologically or economically feasible for something to happen anymore. It just ends. And so now we're going to have these strange, versions of property. So they're basically making it so you can't trust that title anymore. They slap a board game title or a movie that you've known before, and they're rebooting it, or you cannot trust what they're going to do because it's just random sense. Yeah, they just don't take into account the expectations that using those properties of those characters, the expectations that a lot of people, I mean, at least half the people that, have grown up with that are going to experience. And maybe it's just because they've done so much of garbage, Transformers, Teenage Mutant Turtles, these garbage remakes, reboots, that they just think people will swallow anything and whatever. And so Disney is starting to use the same rules of just milk that familiar logo and put the, have the same composer and the same kind of art direction, and just whatever. People will just, and half the people do, half the people don't care. It's just, yeah, as long as it's, shiny and funny and whatever, enjoyable. But it's sad that that's the way it is, because yeah, I think we've lost kind of a common pop culture. I mean, now people, and I guess that, that kind of happened after the prequel trilogy, that the biggest thing that was damaged by that is, cares about the lore and whatever of this silly universe. But the thing that was damaged by it is there were so many odd things introduced that people just couldn't understand, and a story that people couldn't really follow. And you lost that shared audience. So people couldn't talk about, you can't make a reference or a joke about Jar Jar and have people even understand, most people understand what that even is. So it's a funny thing, and maybe that began when they started, everything had to have a proper name, and some, the expanded universe started giving it all this insane background lore and connection that nobody really cares about. I mean, we already had the way that we wanted to interact with those characters. It doesn't need to be like that, and so we've lost that common reference and everything. So maybe, yeah, but maybe that's it. I mean, we have me things that are our common reference because we saw them on the, and yeah, so that's it. So that doesn't exist anymore because it doesn't need. So that is it's just too bad. I don't think. I think people realize kind of what they've lost in that way, but I'm sure that's been said after generation. But as far as my own, I think this is something I can talk about and draw at the same time. We'll see. As far as my own, kind of experience, with Star Wars in the 70s, childhood. So, like I said, my parents saw it one of their movie date nights and immediately took us to the theater the next day to see it. So that was so exciting because they were excited, and you never saw my parents never did that before. They never were affected by something so much that they said, you guys have to see it. so fun, and this is a new thing. And and that was very exciting for us as kids. Very surprising. What are they so excited about? What is all this? And so that felt that made us, you know, twice as interested, because we were just little kids and our parents were excited about something. So that was very mysterious, because, you know, we weren't at that age yet where everything our parents liked was dumb. It was a time where we still, you know, respected their opinion, and so something that they could relate to and be excited about, I think, really big. Was really, really amazing, you know, as a young kid. This has got to be simple because eyes on this. But yeah, so that was part of the experience of that I thought was so amazing. That it's something that, wow, we're actually going to both enjoy this. And I don't know, you know, I don't know if they saw anything, because I don't think either of my parents were particularly, you know, science fiction or serial fans when they were kids. They didn't go see a lot of Flash Gordon or anything movie theaters growing up, but they were really excited and wanted us to see it, and so then that whole thing just started. So then it was the, you know, going to elementary school and asking your classmates, so how many times have you seen it? It was just one of those things. I mean, that was such a different time, because films just stayed in the theater forever. You know, if something was still selling tickets, it stayed in the theater. There wasn't this push. There wasn't so many. It was a crowded market with so many things. I think stupid. You know, with so many, the competition wasn't so, and that it really changed things, because it kept that going much longer, and just, you know, kept it being a common thing. And I think I remember seeing it like at least a dozen times, you know, during those first initial releases, because I think it just kept getting re-released, and then it would be, you know, summer re-releases and drive-throughs and stuff, drive-in theaters. Yeah, but I just remember seeing it again and again and again, and parents even saying, "Oh, do you want to go see Star Wars?" You know, again, and of course, yes, you know, nobody would ever say no to that as a little kid. So yeah, so that experience was so odd, to just have this thing that everybody shared, and, you know, then it was merchandised like crazy. Everyone had Star Wars pajamas, bed sheets, curtains, all the toys and everything. So it was a, you know, a really big kind of cultural phenomena that they definitely didn't anticipate people connecting with it so much like that. I'm sure, yeah, a lot of written about that, and it just, you know, was the right thing at the right time. It was a simplicity. It was stupid and simple, and in the age of the anti-hero and unhappy endings that were happening in the 70s, that was a very fun thing to do and to share, because I think it reminded everybody of their childhood when things were, you know, simpler, and so that's maybe why my, you know, parents' motivation to share it with us, because it was a childlike experience for them. And so then there were, yeah, so with all the merchandising, and of course there were the toys. And it's funny, first Star Wars figure that we ever owned was found in the street. One of the neighbor kids, one of the older kids that lived across the street, knocked on our door one morning, and somebody had dropped a Darth Vader figure in the gutter, in front of our house, and he came in and he rang the bell and he said, "I found this in the street. I'm assuming this is yours," and it wasn't, but we had no idea, whose it was and whatever, so we kept it. So our first Star Wars figure was like trash from the street, and then I don't think at that time, I think they were just barely in the stores. That was very funny because maybe we wouldn't have had an idea of even what the toys were like until we found that one. And so our first toy was a lost and found, and then it just became the staple of your birthday or Christmas for those next 5 years. Probably is what Star Wars toy or playset did you want, and you're always begging. They had when they were releasing the new toys series, new characters, begging to get you next thing. Yeah, so very different now, where it's merchandising is such a weird afterthought on things. Yeah, the same kind of. I don't think anybody has merchandised anything sort of success. So it's a very funny thing. So this maybe I'm going a little bit outside of kind of the topic of domestic abuse of this cartoon, but kind of a joke. So I might actually be doing a cartoon that belongs in another series, but just kind of talking about that merchandising made me think about how we have this weird merchandising now, this Funko Pop nonsense, which is like these ugly, barely recognizable versions of characters for people to collect, and they can basically make, and I think it came out of that that kind of Hong Kong vinyl toy thing where people were doing limited edition things, and they had an odd look, just basically kind of, I don't know, bastardized that idea, and maybe they sell those rich kids with their Hong Kong vinyl collections, and now anybody can have a bunch of odd looking plastic toys that don't quite like the characters they're representing on their shelf and all. But yeah, that just made me think about how odd a lot of the merchandising is now, because a superhero movie comes out and there's the Funko Pop version of those characters that just look like garbage. Yeah, so that is a thing now. That's just like a standard thing, and they're expanding out. I think they're even moving away from this ugly style into something hopefully a little attractive. Try to get people that didn't like this block-headed, dead-eyed versions of their favorite characters. But it just made me think about why don't they just sell a blank one? Not for you to paint or customize, but just so it can represent anything you want. It can be from any movie, any series. I guess what I'm doing now is making like a gray alien. But yeah, I was just thinking that having no features or coloration or details, it's anything. Favorite toy from favorite everything. Yeah, I give a more neutral color to make it gray, but that does push it towards gray alien. Oh well. Not that great of an idea anyhow. Yeah, so just, yeah, about how, because they just, all the designers of these things, they probably start with this kind of a blank, just kind of this empty blank version of this thing. They're like, okay, now put the hair and the costume of that character on this release. And just how funny they, everything, a TV drama, TV series or fantasy or science fiction, or everything, this ugly Funko looking property. Just ugly. There he is. Your generic figure. Favorite figure from you. Yeah, so it seemed that the toy companies is giving up on likeness, making anything, and he just gave you a generic version. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to come back writing it. So little effort. I don't know. Merch. Thing like effort. No, if it was made in the likeness of. Okay, well, that's gonna back to that. Yeah, but the idea is just how terrible that they are merchandising now. What it's supposed to be. All right, well, let's try something else. Yeah, so so as however many times there was a big contest, how many times did you see Star Wars? 70s, early 80s, and t-shirts were everywhere. There was a thing like the t-shirt store, t-shirt shop in the mall, where you could just choose a blank t-shirt, and then they had all these iron-on transfers, and you can have your name put on, custom, I guess. And you could have anything you want put on. So of course, like all of the boy idols and the swimsuit models and stuff from that time get on a t-shirt, but also then of course Star Wars images, their own Star Wars shirts, and yeah, there's a lot of that way. But yeah, so the merchandising was crazy, and it was just part of everybody's childhood. It wasn't like and now it's like, what is the thing of this summer? It was just kind of always around. It never went away for those 5 years, however long it took them to make those three. I think after '83 though, they just did kind of get stuck because it was a weird, the timing was just really weird. All the kids that they were making merchandise for those films, now were that many years older and possibly, you know, just getting out of the age where they played with toys. So the demand on the audience shrunk, and after the, you know, release of the third film, that was it. You know, we didn't think we'd ever see another one of them again. So kind of aging out of action figures and play sets, and also in the last film, yeah, I think they did get stuck at the end with a lot of, you know, unsellable Star Wars stuff. But yeah, that was a really crazy time, you know, as far as a pop culture phenomena. And I think, you know, they've been trying to recreate that. That's like the opium of Hollywood. Since that happened, they've been trying to do it again. It's never happened again. There was a little blip with Ghostbusters, maybe. You know, like everyone kind of had that in common. Everybody thought that was a funny movie, but that didn't have a sequel. It didn't have any way to stretch that into any kind of sequel. But I'm just trying to think of the movies that, you know, people all kind of universally related to. E.T., you know, I was a little too old to get interested in that, and it wasn't. It was just a story. It didn't have any characters that you really worried about what was going to happen to them. It was just one kind of self-contained. So, world, just our world with alien visitors. But yeah, I don't know, the thing. Yeah, it's just they've just tried to recreate that, and, you know, kind of tried to force that to happen again, and it just doesn't. And I think a lot of the, you know, retailers and the people on that front lines of movie theaters, toy stores, or drugstores, or department stores, or whoever is handling that, are the people that take the most damage from these kind of mistakes, these merchandising mistakes, and something's more popular, or the way that they merchandise something is the correct way. And yeah, so we've had a lot of that kind of go very wrong since then. I can remember in the 90s, you know, they were trying to merchandise. Yeah, I guess that was still the 80s, but they, you know, they merchandised film and things with action figures, and, you know, I don't think a lot of kids, a lot of young children saw that. Alien, the first Alien film was a horror movie, basically, horror film. You know, a lot of that, so that was an odd thing, but maybe they were trying to tap into that. Maybe they already knew that collector's market, or that adult market, weirdos buying toys and never opening, already coming to. But there's, I was thinking yeah, it was a very unique situation, and I think they've been trying to recapture that forever, and, you know, we're all suffering because of that. Limited creativity, and it's really hurt how pushing things out. I heard that Disney with the Last Jedi even had, you know, speaking of, like, you know, movie theaters being hurt by this ability to recreate this, that the movie theaters were kind of forced to, if they were going to exhibit Star Wars, it had Last Jedi, it had to be in a theater for 4 weeks, which is pushing it pretty hard, because a lot of things, if they die off pretty fast. They may have already known this film is going to have a really big die off after that opening weekend, but they're forced to have it in their biggest screens, on their biggest screens for 4 weeks, and the percent that Disney was taking was higher than usual films and things. So that sounds like some people were already thinking this isn't gonna work. They were already trying to prepare prepare themselves for the kind of fan reaction to this. And it may just be it may be kind of a long-term thing where they're literally are shaking away the harder to please older fans, just trying to get the younger, the people that attend a Star Wars celebration or something, those more pliable people, to be that fan base and shake loose anybody that's going to be hard to satisfy, so they can just start, cranking this stuff out and get, Marvel superhero movie kind of returns. Because yeah, you hear so often like they've relied on this, and some people have complemented their approach, that Marvel Cinematic Universe, but you hear so many people, I don't want to see a super. Never have, like they've never wanted to see superheroes, and I don't remember anybody having that attitude. My grandparents, about the original Star Wars, they saw those movies, those characters, and talked to them about that when you were a kid. That was amazing. That very rarely ever happened. It definitely, speaks to the unique of that situation. And this new, it's really strange. It's a really strange approach, and I hope that there's some intention behind it. I hope that they do have a plan, and like I was saying, just trying to shake a hard to please fan base out of it, so that they can or ease, and they're always going to have the critical success, so they'll always be able to they'll always be able to, yeah, I'm just not good at talking and doing this at the same time. Ugh. Yeah, that's like, I should probably draw this that better angle. But that's an odd approach, and it just makes me miss the time people had that kind of that reliable thing, that connection. But I think all fans of everything are so splintered now, and it's hard to amass a large group of fans around. So might be how it is, how it goes. Yeah, I'm gonna bring more toys again. Good. Wow, it's actually, sorry about that. I keep hitting right there. This. Yeah. So I'll keep experimenting maybe with that pre-recording idea, because it is a little bit odd to, this isn't a constant. I guess it's so much easier maybe to play a game and talk, but drawing and talking, yeah, a little rough, unless I'm just talking about everything that I'm doing, and I'm not complicated, so I don't think that information is all that interesting. Yeah, I think, well, hopefully this week I'm a little bit better with staying in frame camera. Last time I noticed there was a lot of this because I had the camera at an odd position, so I don't think that was a watch. And hopefully a lot of people are just listening to this and not actually looking, or looking at the what's going on in Photoshop, which is a lot more interesting. that. Oh, yeah, that's just totally not. That should be okay. So the awkwardness, I think, part of its charm. Okay. Yeah, so those are obviously maybe try the card and see if that works. Yeah, that can go. Yeah, that'll work better. I'm trying to think of that. I guess the blisters part here. That should work. Alright, I guess I'm doing another joke. Ugh. Apologies for this week. Yeah, that's one thing that's quality of the action gotten better. Figures for this new movie are terrible. That's likeness is garbage, and like when you see what can be done now, computers and how they're getting those photorealistic likenesses of people. Any of that to a nice, slightly sharper cat. Oh yeah, maybe instead of this, I'll give that stupid lightsaber hand. I think that's the only thing that's gotten better. Gotten color. Or maybe. All right. Oh, oh, whoa, whoa. Open. Oh yeah, his hand. Oh, so hey, there we go. Sure. Okay, go with that. Hmm. All right, and now I'm not talking. Yeah, I gotta figure out how to make all this work a little more. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Solution is for this. Yes, so talking. Yeah, so the completely pervasiveness, constant. Everyone comes. You know, that's the hair color. It is a persistent of Star Wars and everybody's childhood around that time. Funny thing, and it's I mean they do have a pretty big challenge of you know sustaining this and actually make it something that a new might actually even pay attention to because it's so hard to anybody paying attention. All right, see, it's painted as badly as back then. And maybe yellow. Oh, actually, no, that's fine. So yeah, after seeing the movies, then there was the soundtrack. I think actually the first LP I ever bought as a little kid was the story of Star Wars. 12-inch vinyl, whatever that is, 12-inch vinyl. That was just the story, sound effects and everything. The story, retelling the story of Star Wars. Really big art in the double album full. I think it was just a single LP, but it pulled out like a big art book. But yeah, that was the other way to kind of relive. And go to the theater and see it again. Really crazy. all that stuff existed. That ridiculous promotion that they did, you know, because they had no idea. Actually, yeah, price tag. They had no idea how popular the film would be, so of course the toys weren't ready. This is or the toys weren't ready, so they released this set that was just an empty box with a on that you sent in. The toys would arrive after Christmas because they were so far behind on demand for that Christmas season. But then after that, that was those were the toys for Christmas for for many years after that. Get that out. Yeah, just had to act. Yeah, and it's too bad that now the time we're living in, everything has to suffer. Everyone is so suspicious of everything. Boy, that almost like if you do agree with a lot of people about something wrong with you, always have superiority over people because nobody gets it. That's a really weird attitude. But it's just because we have so many people expressing odd mental quirks online. The crazier you are, usually the louder you are with your. We all get to enjoy that. So again, not a creative topic, but I promise I will not. The last rant Star Wars stuff. I was just reminded of it because of the reaction. Discovery, Star Trek Discovery reaction. It brought this back up again and realized, wow, yeah, there's people, not just this, but Star Wars, but all these things that people are trying to release and review. There's unhappy people everywhere. All this stuff. Oh, actually, cardboard. Card. Where we tear up the paper. And we also have to put that color. Okay. And I guess. Yeah, we'll just like that. All right. Perfect. Back. Yeah, I really do have to figure out drawing. Better. I'm sure that would be more satisfying for everybody. Yeah, I don't know. I guess in the beginning when I was having all the sound quality problems, I had more motivation and more things I wanted to talk about, specifically, connected to this cartoon. Now I'm just, like I've said, I'm just talking about kind of what on my mind. And that's while I'm doing this. So figure this out. Make this more satisfying, or at least more, yeah, more connected to creativity and motivated to do their own, to keep at their own work and keep what they're doing. I think would be the most important part, or my earliest intentions were to be something motivational, and either this could be something you listened to while you were working, or just got you inspired to go do something. And I haven't been doing that lately. I guess failing at that pretty big, because yeah, rambling about nothing recently. It's what? Oh, that's fine. But we'll see. We'll see if we can get this back on. Be more inspirational and feed creativity. Blah 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 about nothing. I think this is right. So may be wrong about this, but I think here had a yellow lightsaber. They changed that later, but lightsaber. But I may be wrong. But I'm gonna go with that. Okay, I think it's too much detail. Actually, I'm not gonna have a place to put eyes. Oh, yellow, lovely. Okay. Ugh, all right. I don't know about this one. Gonna be a competition for the least. Well, I don't know. Yeah, both of these are really off. I might be losing it. Ouch. All right. Too much. Obviously, too much. Yeah, Star Wars on the brain. Yeah, talking about this is not inspired great cartoon. So we have this thing. Oh God. All right, we have this thing, the generic merchandise. We have this thing. Ugh. Wow. Okay, well, go with Ray or something. Ugh. Yeah, I don't. Oh my god. Okay, well, this is going to be a weird week. But there we go. So, oh. Merge. Yeah, I was going to do a box joke, but I don't know. Talking too much about this stuff. Oh. Oh. Yeah. Not emerged. Oh, I can't believe I'm recording my thought process here. Boo, boo, boo. Okay. Zero effort. Was likeness. Zero effort being made in the likeness. Oh. That's why. Yeah, I've got to get this idea across because I think the problem is this looks too much like a supposed to be an alien, a gray alien. Oh. uh, boys. Yeah, this is long idea. Oh, I can't believe I'm recording this. This is a bad day. Oh boy. So apologies for suffering through this. I hope there was something somewhat interesting. To prevent controversy, toys were now made with no likeness to any character. All right, let's see how badly I spelled controversy. Yes. Oh, yeah, there was no. Prevent controversy, toys were now made with no likeness. Oh. All right. Where are we going with this? Oh. How about the new hopelessness? Oh. Oh boy, oh boy. This is going to continue. Responsive. Yeah, I think that review of my cartoons. Yeah, I don't laugh at them. They're just kind of. Yep. You gotta get in there on that deeper level with them. You know. Ugh. Funny criticism of cartoons because not a laugh out loud thing for the most part. I don't think it has been for a long time. Funny ideas in there. It's just kind of All right, well that's what we did. We created another bunch of I don't know. I don't think anyone's ignore. Is there something else there? I should. Above the shadow. A little bit of. I don't know. Oh, wow. That's an odd one. Oh, and it happened again. I locked. This is insane. I locked this down. Yeah, there must be some keyboard command. Oh, sorry, I'm doing this while I'm streaming. Must be some keyboard that I'm hitting. Yeah, these keep jumping around. So I'm half the time I'm streaming and I'm not checking what's going out, and these tapes are all over the place. So sure, there must be some keyboard shortcut that I'm using. But These are locked. Locked issue. Obviously, with some shortcut, it probably, you know, recenters that layer. Or I don't know why. Locked. Well, apologies. That whole nonsense had keeps in the middle of it. But I guess that's what we're doing. Oh boy. Okay. Hour and a half of whatever that was. So, thank you for joining me. To prevent controversy, toys were now made with no likeness to any familiar characters, and his unboxing felt like part of a new... Alright, that's this week. So, yeah, maybe Wednesday isn't going to be the day. The energy is right there. But enough about the Star Wars. Yeah, so thanks for joining me, and yeah, follow Abuse Cartoons on Twitter, and yeah, subscribe and like this video if it was something fun to listen to, or enough of a train wreck that it amused you. And yeah, so we'll keep doing this. I'll see you next week, and hopefully the sound is a little bit better with the new microphone location. Video has got... The video's working out a little bit better, and background's a little... All right. Well, thanks for joining me. See you again next week. Bye.